I want to talk just a few minutes this morning on change. You think about change, and as I near 40, which is very difficult to say, by the way, the things I've seen over my lifetime in my 38 years is crazy. The amount of change from when I was a kid, the things that have happened over the years, and I think about some of the older people in the audience and seeing the different things in their life, thinking back, horse and buggy, right? Maybe not. But there's been a lot of change. There's been some positive change in the world. There's been a lot of negative change. And I think in the past several years, we've seen a lot of negative change. This morning, I want to talk about some change that maybe we need in our lives. You know, this is a time we've spent a lot of time over the recent weeks with family, with people that we love, enjoyed ourselves, probably overindulged in eating. Now is a time that the world a lot of times uses to make New Year's resolutions, to make changes in their lives. And I know there may be people in here that are against New Year's resolutions, and that's okay. I, for one, I enjoy setting goals for myself, in different areas of my life, financially, relationships, spiritually, all these different things, setting goals for myself and trying to achieve those goals. If you're against New Year's resolutions, it doesn't have to be New Year's Day, but if there's a change that's needed in your life, you need to make that change. I want to look at three different things this morning that I found as I was reading Ephesians chapter 4 that I believe we need to look at ourselves and possibly change these different things in our daily lives. Let's start off reading a few of these verses in Ephesians 4. Starting in verse 22, it says that you put off concerning your former conduct the old man which grows corrupt according to the deceitful lusts, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that you put on the new man which was created according to God in true righteousness and holiness. So here we see that we are expected, when we become Christians, we're expected to change. We're expected to show a difference, to put on a new man. The Bible tells us in several different places that we're to put off certain things and we're to put on different things, to make a change. And I think this first thing that we're going to talk about, changing our mindset, is where it all starts. We're going to talk about changing our mindsets, changing our behavior, and changing our speech. The behavior and the speech all stem from our mindset. So the very first thing we want to look at is changing our mindset. In Romans chapter 12 and verse 2, it says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." It says to renew our mind, to be transformed. Don't conform to the world. Don't act like the world. Don't look at the things the world does and mimic the world, but to transform. And it says we do that through the renewing of our mind, by changing our minds, changing our mindset. In Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, the Bible tells us, "Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life." So like we were saying, the things we do, the things that we say, it all comes from our mind. So we definitely want to look at that first. And if there's any changes that need to be made, we need to be making those changes. This next verse, I read quite often, things that we are to be thinking about, the types of things we are to be thinking about. Philippians 4 and 8 says, "Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, are of good report, if there is any virtue and if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things." Think about these things. So when we're thinking about something, we can ask ourselves these questions. Is this true? Is this something I should be thinking about? Is it true? Is it noble? Is it Is it just? Is it pure? If it's not, we need to push those types of things out of our thoughts. But we need to be thinking of those things that are pure, that are lovely, that are of good report, good things, good wholesome things. We need to be thinking about these things, and we need to put off bad thoughts out of our minds. The next thing that we find in Ephesians chapter 4, if we go to verse 6, or starting in verse 26, it says, "Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath, nor give place to the devil. Let him who stole steal no longer, but rather let him labor, working with his hands what is good, that he may have something to give him who has need." So we need to change the way we behave. The things that we do in our life, those things are seen by everyone. When people are looking at us and we're claiming to be Christians, followers of Christ, what are they seeing? Are they seeing you do the things that are Christ-like, or are they seeing you being conformed to the world in the way that we're behaving? This verse also shows us that if we put off bad behavior, it uses the example of a thief. It says if someone is a thief and steals, that he's to not steal anymore, to change the behavior. And then it says that he needs to work, that he can help others, so that he can give to those who have need. So the Bible tells us that if we're putting something off, we need to replace that with something. And in this case of the thief, it's to work, do something with your hands to keep yourself busy, to provide for yourself, not thinking about yourself, and to give to others, to think about others, which is a big key to Christianity, is not just not thinking about ourselves, but thinking about others. Romans chapter 13, starting in verse 13, it says, "Let us walk properly as in the day, not in revelry and drunkenness, not in lewdness and lust, not in strife and envy, but put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh to fulfill its lusts." You know, we talked about some of the changes that I've seen over my lifetime, and it seems like those changes are negative, and we look at that and we can see the negative. It's easier to see negative than positive, and we see those things, and we're constantly bombarded with sin, and the world doesn't seem to care about the concept of light, as this one's talking about day, and darkness anymore. The things that used to be hid in the darkness are now right out in front of us, where we see it constantly, and we're bombarded with it every day. Here in Romans, it's telling us to put off these things. The lust, the strife, envy, all these things, but to put on Jesus. We are Christians, which means Christ-like. And it tells us not to put ourselves in situations, to make no provision for the flesh. So don't put yourself in a situation where we know we struggle, where we know we have a weakness. Don't put yourself in a position where you're going to get into these issues. Don't put yourself in a position to make poor choices. In Colossians chapter 3, verse 5 through 10, it says, "Therefore put to death your members which are on the earth, fornication, uncleanness, passion, evil desire, and covetousness, which is idolatry. Because of these things the wrath of God is coming upon the sons of disobedience, in which you yourselves once walked when you lived in them. But now you yourselves are to put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy language out of your mouth. Do not lie to one another, since you have put off the old man with his deeds, and have put on the new man, who is renewed in knowledge according to the image of him who created him." We are to put off all of these things and to put on Christ. It says in this fifth verse here, to put to death. That's serious. It's not playing with it and trying to get as close to it as we can. It says put to death. That's how serious this is to God. And we need to take it serious as well. We need to change our behavior. For the grace of God that brings salvation has appeared to all men, teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present age. We don't need to be trying to act like the world, to be conformed to the world, but to be transformed into what God wants us to be. We need to change our behavior. The last thing we're going to look at this morning is changing our speech. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 25, and then we'll go to verse 29. It says, "Therefore, putting away lying, let each one of you speak truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another." And then verse 29 says, "Let no corrupt word proceed out of your mouth, but what is good for necessary edification, that it may impart grace to the hearers." So we see here we are to speak truth. We are to edify or build up with the way we speak to people. In Colossians 4 and 6, we see the Bible here says, "Let your speech also be with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer each one." So the last verse we talked about truth, and there may be times where you speak the truth, but the way you speak it is not very loving. We need to think about the way that we talk to each other, the way that we talk to others in the world, and season the way we speak those words and make sure that those are coming from love and not always harsh. This concept here in James chapter 3 has always interested me. It talks about, here we'll just read it, James 3 starting in 5, it says, "Even so the tongue is a little member and boasts great things. See how great a forest a little fire kindles. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is so set among our members that it defiles the whole body and sets on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire by hell." I looked up this morning what the biggest causes of, we've seen over the last several years a lot in California, a lot of wildfires, and what the largest causes of those wildfires are. And 85% of wildfires are caused by human negligence. It comes from pieces of equipment that may have sparked, that may have been too hot, that was touching something that was flammable and started there, by somebody throwing a cigarette out a window, that type of thing. 85% of the wildfires that we see on the news, that's where those types of things come from. And you think about that, the Bible verse here is comparing the tongue to a fire. And just something as small as a cigarette and the little burning part on the end of that's not even an open flame, but just embers that can start what we see out in California. Every year, millions of acres are burned from that small thing. Billions of dollars of damage is caused from that one small thing. And God compares that to our tongue. And that should make us think about the things that we say. We can blow situations up just by the words that we use, the words that come out of our mouth, into something that is uncontrollable and cannot be repaired. Verses 5 and 6 of James 3 says, "Even so, the tongue is a little member and boasts great things. How great a forest a little fire kindles." I want to talk to you as we close today. These are a few things that have helped me with some of the goals that I set. I was listening to Dave Ramsey. I have listened to him off and on for several years. But a couple years ago, he had somebody call in, which is not very rare. It happens all the time. But people call in and they say, I've got this financial issue. This is what I've done. This is the debt I have. I know how to fix it, but I'm having trouble. And he says, then change. He claps. Change. And there's truth to that. The person who is in charge of change for your life is you. What's not so easy is just change. So here's a few things that when I've gone through different things, when I want to make a change in my life, things that have helped me along the way. Just wanted to share a few things with you as we close this morning. The first thing is write them down. If you have a goal, I don't get out a pen and paper and write them. I have notes in my phone, and I type them out. You can do whatever's more comfortable for you, but write them down. You can get in there. You can go look at it. You might forget. That's what it is I need to be working on. But write them down. Find an accountability partner, somebody that you can talk to. Tell them what you're going to work on exactly. Ask them to talk to you to see how your progress is coming, to hold you accountable. Find your why. Why is it that you want to make this change? If we're talking about sin, which we very possibly could be in situations, I think the why is pretty obvious. We know that sin separates from God, and we want to be in communion with God. But find your why. Make new routines. A lot of times when you're dealing with some sort of sin issue, it's a timing thing. It's a situational type thing. Make new routines. You've put yourself in routines and have gotten used to doing those things at certain times. Make new routines. Be consistent. I started going to the gym. Michael finally convinced me like 6 months ago to start. And one thing I've realized is that you need to be consistent, because those first several days, I was hurting. And I didn't want to go to the gym. I didn't want to touch any weights. And then if you take a break, I actually took a 2-week break. It wasn't because I didn't want to work out. Well, I really don't want to work out, but I know it's good for me. But I took a 2-week break to go do a job in Oklahoma. And I come back, and that hurt just starts all over again. So you have to be consistent. If you're going to make a change, do those things and do it over and do it over. And then the last one is don't beat yourself up. On these New Year's resolutions, you hear a lot of people talk about what they're going to do in 2024. And by February, it's out the window. You may fail in February. You may fail before January's over. Don't beat yourself up. Get back up. It's all how you react to it. Get back up. Try it again. Talk with an accountability partner and say, you know what, I messed up. I got to get back on the right road. Help me. Pray for me. Study with me. But get back up and keep trying. It's all how you react to it. Don't stay down and say, you know what, I give up because I messed up. Get back up and try again. So this morning, if you need change, make that change. You don't have to wait till tomorrow, January 1st. Make it now. If change is needed in your life, make it now. Get right with God. If you need prayers this morning, if you need somebody to talk to, somebody to study with, we'd love to assist you with that. If you have not become a child of God this morning, we'd love to assist you with that. The water's ready. I'm sure it's nice and warm in this cold weather, but we can help you take care of that this morning, and God can add you to His church, to the kingdom. If there's one of either case, come forward, sit on the front row, and we'll assist you as we stand and sing.